Welcome to Crushgasm, the podcast dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes. From their first to their worst, we're going to cover them all with a cascade of characters, including our guest today, a woman with bigger fish to fry, Eleanor Ward, an author, life coach, magazine publisher, and true crime TV addict who is here to talk not only about Prosperity Business Magazine, but also her crush on a preacher man that happened not too long ago. Eleanor, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited. Like I said, I found it so interesting that your crush is one of the first to come about in legit adulthood. So many have spawned from childhood to adolescence, or if they were from guests that were adults, it was mostly like celebrity based. So with that, are you someone that has had a handful of crushes that in your adult life?
Oh my goodness. In my adult life, I would honestly say maybe 3 crushes. But I was so shocked when I had the first one because I was never that type of person. So it was surprising how hard I crushed on this particular preacher man. I mean, I was like, wow, I was seeing things, imagining things, dreaming things. It was crazy, but probably about 3 in my adulthood life.
Not only the first like sort of adulthood crush we've had, other than a lovely singer that her crush was a crush that worked out and it became her husband, but yours also first that we had like a sort of religious person, like a pastor. What was it about him? Was it looks, the way they spoke? Because I can imagine a pastor is very charismatic when they speak because they have to lead a room, you know?
Oh my God, if you hear this guy speak, it's something in his voice, and he knows it because he even mentions it sometimes. It's not a booming, overtaking, thunderous voice. It's just a very matter of fact, get it done voice. And he says when he preaches sometimes, if you don't hear anything else, but my voice moves you, do what my voice tells you to do. And you just feel it through your whole body. He's a nice looking guy as well, so that didn't hurt. But his voice just, when you hear it, it just does something to you. It gives you like tremors in your bones.
Is there any like celebrity you can compare his voice to?
I would say as far as no, because it's just kind of, I think that's what got me. I had never heard a voice like that before. I was kind of thinking maybe along the lines of Idris, but he has a treble to his voice that you don't know until he starts talking, because it'll sound like you're like, whoa, I didn't know that was coming out of you.
He also noted that this particular pastor, he wasn't settled in one place. He moved around and you moved right along with him. How many spots did you follow him to?
For me, actually, I didn't really follow him. He was kind of in a couple of different places, and it seemed like we ended up in the same areas for whatever reason. And he still travels. He's still not a resident technically of Texas. He still travels from the East Coast to preach in Texas once or twice a week. And so I was just like, what is going on? Because I really, like I said, there was no following, but it would seem like if I was on the East Coast visiting my sister or something, boom, he'd be up there preaching. And then when I moved here, I was just like, okay, now he's going to have a church here. So it was just interesting. It was like how it coincided.
Is that a custom practice for pastors to travel around? I always thought they were kind of like they had their home base and that was it.
No, it's really not. Most pastors travel to speak. Now that is custom. They will travel out of town to speak a lot. But as far as having their church and their church home, they're very usually invested in their area and community. And I think what it comes down to, from what I kind of gathered, he makes more money on the East Coast. And coming here, people think Dallas is different than Houston. Houston's a little bit more booming, but Dallas is a little bit country and Bible Beltish. So the salaries and things are not that large. So I think that's one reason he hasn't fully came this way. So he has a small congregation here. I started a church here and everything, but he hasn't let go of, I guess, his earning potential up there, which I can completely understand. But I think it's hard because if you're not fully here where your church is, then your church people struggle. So I've always wondered, it's like, when is he going to fully commit to what he started?
And when did you start to notice that you two happen to be at the same places a lot more than usual?
Second or third visit, because I would literally go to church at my home church, and then I would go to his church services, after to see him. And I guess in a sense, he never really tried to see me. I don't think he cared, but that's what I would do. So pretty much my whole Sunday was blocked. I'd go to my services and I would drive the 45 minutes to where his services were. And in my head, I was just like wanting to hear him. I kept saying it was just wanting to hear him preach. I guess I wasn't ready to admit, I was thinking about other stuff. So in my head, I was saying, I just want to hear him preach. He's such a good preacher. He really makes me feel connected to God. So that's what I was telling myself. And eventually I did stop that. That was expensive.
I can imagine. So thank God you're not doing it now. The gas
God, no.
that maybe Zoom churches or something. But did you ever approach him in a way that was like less pastor patron and more, hey, I want to get to know you outside of this church walls?
I was so, I guess I was kind of new to the faith, so to speak, at that time. And I just had it ingrained in my head from when my dad was a minister and stuff that was inappropriate. So, but I could tell like he would be speaking and he'd come off the podium, which he does a lot, and he walks around and touches people and talks to them. He would get near me and you could feel the heat like between us. And I know it wasn't just me. I'm old enough to know heat. And then sometimes he would walk past the row I'm sitting on and just stop. And then he wouldn't say a word. And then he would just walk on around. So I would be like, why is he doing that kind of stuff? And so I did kind of message him once on Facebook. I didn't say anything inappropriate. I just said I was thankful for being at his services and so happy to, have him as part of my life. He didn't really respond. He was just like, oh, that's great. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to say anything else then.
So you kind of...
I tried to open the door so that he would start, but he didn't really respond like I thought he would. It was just kind of like, oh, you're welcome. That's great. I'm glad you're doing well. And he didn't say anything else. I was like, okay. I thought he would kind of open the door a little bit, but he didn't.
Well, darn. You tried to shoot your shot.
I did. I guess I could have tried harder, but I was like, okay.
And again, I find it interesting because this crush is from adulthood and on a real life person, not Tom Cruise, not Denzel. And before we dive more into that, I want to know if you handled crushes kind of in a similar way you do now as an adult when you were growing up. Like, did you maybe follow a crush or happen to be in the same place as your crush on the playground more often than not?
Back, believe it or not, when I was younger, I shot my shot for real. So it was very strange to me to be this weirdly timid chick, as an adult, because I remember I would do embarrassing things, which I didn't realize until later. I would write a guy a note. I really like you. You're cute. You want to talk to me? Unfortunately, I give it to a friend and they tell the whole school and I'd be all embarrassed. But yeah, I used to literally shoot my shot when I was a kid. So one guy in high school, I just approached him and I was like, I can tell you like me. Let's be boyfriend and girlfriend. He was a horrible boyfriend, but I shot my shot. So it was weird for me not to say to, the pastor, hey, are you interested in me? Because I get a vibe that you are.
Interesting, because I was the total opposite. I would never tell someone I like them growing up. I thought it's to this day I do this podcast about crushes. My crushes from back then still don't know. I write about them, won't name drop them though, but they can read context clues if they dare to read. I'm friends with all of them. But yeah, I could never. Did you when it would go bad, your friend would tell your whole story, did you just shake it off and move on?
Oh, I'd be so embarrassed. I remember once, and I think it was 7th grade, we went to the amusement park and I rode in the log ride. And it was kind of that first girl moment where, you're a real girl as far as getting bounced around, if the ladies know what I mean. And I was sitting in between his legs, because everybody knows a log ride, you sit between everybody's legs. And I was just like, whoa. And I don't know if it was that or if I really liked him, but I thought he was cute. He had the haircut with I don't know what they call it, maybe a rat tail back in the day or whatever. And so I wrote a note, but I couldn't get to him for some reason after we got off the ride. So I asked his friend, oh, please give him this note. Me being the dummy I am, thinking they would respect my privacy, they literally opened the note and read it out loud on the bus back to school. So I just kind of sat there embarrassed. And then when we got back to school, he kind of made fun of me. And then he took me to the side one day privately and was like, I'm sorry. I just didn't, I didn't know what to do either. So I was just like, it's okay. And I don't want to be with him then.
Oh my God, I would have been like, Mom, I got to transfer schools or homeschool. Like, this is done. Just give me my schoolwork and I'll do it at home. Take it in for me. But maybe like now that you're more shy as an adult, I think maybe it has to do with this added layer of pressure when you like someone when you're a grown person, because when we're older, we're often dating to make it more official, make it more long term, and that could like hold us off from things too. Do you think?
I don't think so. I don't think I reverted to being shy. I think I let the church kind of infect my thought process of dealing with men of this super demure, mild, meek person that I truly am not, and everybody knows I'm not. And so I would have still been respectable in how I approached him, but I guess I was just in my head, you just don't do that at all. You don't talk to me at all. God's supposed to bring you a man. I've long since come out of that because it's been a few years since I had this crush, but I was just like, I always wonder, well, maybe had you said something, you'd be in a different situation now than you are.
And you mentioned you had a couple other crushes as an adult. Were they also based in the church, or are these ones?
I don't know. One guy was at work, and sorry, ladies, gents, I just love a good bald head. If you are bald headed, I go bananas. And he was also French from Africa. And one day he was talking, and I started talking back. I'm not fluent, but I know enough. And he goes, "Oh my God, somebody speaks French." I said, "Wait a minute, don't start talking fast." I said, I would love to speak French because it would help bring some back. So we would speak French a little bit every day. And he was just the most beautiful chocolate bald-headed man on the planet. And we kind of had the touch and the rub and all that stuff. But I knew he was married. And so I was like, I won't go any further. So I didn't. But we had fun. It was a good flirt.
Oh my God, don't let my dad hear this. He is a chocolate bald-headed man and he loves the ladies. And he's a Texan, proud Texan.
If trouble becomes anywhere near me because I'll rub on his head.
Oh, he'd welcome it. He has like 15 kids. That's how much he loves the ladies. But he's a good man.
My other one was, what was my other adult crush? I'm trying to think. I can't really think of it now. Well, hopefully it'll come to me, but it's like I said. But I remember him. And I can't think of the other one at the moment.
Another bald-headed?
No, that's what I'm trying to think of. When it's for some reason, once I started talking about the bald head thing, everything went out of my brain. Because that's my loves.
But back to the pastor and you, if things had worked out, if he had wrote a different type of Facebook message, what do you think your lives would be like today together?
I think I'd be a pastor's wife, a first lady. I think I'd probably be up on the East Coast, wherever he is up there. And I guess I'd be coming back and forth like he does now. I think our lives would be, for me, I would want to get settled somewhere. And I'm a big, wanderlust fan. So I'm never stuck on one place because I'm getting the hell out of Texas in a year. So I'll tell your daddy to get at me. But so
are you heading to California?
I want to go back to Vegas. Vegas is amazing. But once I'm pretty much done with the spot, I'm done with it. And so I think I would have wanted him to figure out what he wanted to do, where he wanted to be settled. And I would have probably started gearing him towards that. But I think we would have been a good couple. I think we could have been a power couple. I think he really, really was ignoring his feelings because you could feel it. A friend of mine came to the church with me one time, and I took a couple of different friends to the church. And when he walked away and went back up front, I was in the back of the church, mind you. He walked all the way to the back of the church. She said, "Why did he walk all the way back here? He literally came off the stage and he spoke to you." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, it's just because I come visit." And she said, "No, it's not." And she wouldn't say anything else. So yeah, I think we could have been good.
Do you think there's a chance in the future you'll ever reconnect?
No, unless I start going back out to his church. I decided not to do that. I don't watch him on live stream anymore. I think he knows how he affected me. One day didn't have any money to tithe. I had lost my job. It was just a lot of not great stuff going on. And I don't remember who. I think I was crying in the back because I was just tired. And somebody pulled me up front and he was standing there and he was looking at me and he grabbed my hands and he took all the money out of his pocket and he put it in my hand. And he said, you can't tithe my money if you're crying. And I just boo-hooed even harder.
Right.
And then he said, until you stop crying, you're not allowed to tithe my money. You can't give when you're filled with sorrow. So I kind of snuffle up against it up and pulled myself back together. And I didn't even look, but the wad of money was gigantic. And I took his money and I put it in the tithing bucket. And he said, I'm not going to get that back. That goes into the church. Then he kind of, held my hands for a while and kept talking to me. So I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to fall out.
It feels like you're at a concert and the singer like pulled you up.
Yeah. So, and he would say little things when I would visit about my eyeshadow, about what I had on, all kind of little stuff. And I would just be like, okay. But he would never come and have a legit, full-blown conversation with me.
Well, his loss.
It is.
And you get to move on and find a new man that's hopefully bald and beautiful.
That's right.
But now it's time to talk more about yourself and what you have going on. I'd love to start with the magazine publishing side of things. You're the editor-in-chief of Prosperity Business Magazine, a magazine that focuses on women and small businesses. When did that all start? And what made you want to focus on that area?
I wanted to start a travel magazine. And man, when I tell you, it was not coming together, and I don't know, just beat my head against a dead horse. I had no clue what I was doing to even start a magazine, but I knew I wanted one. And in the midst of everything, I started talking to a few people, and they were talking about their businesses. And I'm like, wow, you're doing some big stuff. Wow, you're doing some great stuff. So as I'm having these conversations, I was like, you should be in like Essence and these magazines. They're like, they're not going to put me in their magazine. I thought, well, what if I put you in mine? They're like, you got a magazine? I'm like, I can pull one together. So I started realizing you got these amazing chicks of all colors that are just doing like 6 and 7 figure businesses. Some of them aren't doing those numbers, but they're doing stuff in the community that nobody else is doing. Nobody knows about them. So I started trying to feature them. And in the process, I was kind of bootstrapping it all the way, and I'm changing that this year, but I was doing everything out of pocket. So I said, I can only do 4 issues a year right now because it was a little bit more expensive than I thought. And it's grown now. We're in our official 2nd year. Well, we celebrated our 1st anniversary, put it like that. And I am, waiting to hear back from bookstores. I'm waiting to hear back about, possible people to sponsor. And I'm reaching out to even more people to be in the magazine. So I became everything, the publisher, the editor-in-chief, and I now have actually 2 employees that work on the magazine. So that's amazing to me. And I finally figured out how to get the travel magazine together. So that's going to start next year.
I was going to ask, did you give up the travel magazine or put it on the back burner?
It's going to start next year. I want to be, I don't know the name yet, but I want to be like the Black Town and Country. I don't know if you've ever seen that magazine, but I love it. That's how I want to be.
And in doing this and focusing on women in business, like what's up with them being secondary in the business world? Have you found that kind of common thread in talking to all these women?
Definitely. Of course, as you talk to the women, you realize the powerhouses they are, and they don't see themselves as secondary, but they definitely know that they are. So some of the stories that I tell, they'll tell of their hardship of not getting a loan or fighting City Hall to get their business or a location or something, or zoning that claims they can't have a certain type of business. And I mean, these girls go out and they fight City Hall, and I'm like, they're just rocking beasts, the stuff that they do. So, I want to get more readers so that people can really read about these ladies. I have, a small base right now. It's not anything to sneeze at, but it's nothing that you need to go get a tissue for either. So that's what I want. I want it to be broad enough where people are like, yeah, I read PPM. I know what's going on.
But you're also a woman in business, so you know a little thing about it. You do the magazine, You're an author, a life coach. What led you down that life coach path?
Oh my God, all the wrong things. I got the life coaching literally in 2013. I didn't do squat whole lot with it, and it wasn't cheap. So then I think around 2000, what was it? I don't remember. Maybe 17 or 18. I was like, okay, I'm going to start doing something with it. And it just went down all the wrong pathways. I was trying to be a business coach. It's not that I can't be a business coach. It's just not what I want to do at this time. And I know it's not my calling at this time. And then I started listening to gurus and paying all these different people. And so nobody knew what I was doing. People were like, what do you do? Because it just seemed all over the place. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to stick to what I got the life coaching for. I got certified to be a life strategist coach, and I can give you a strategy for your life. And then when I lost my husband and my son, this was before I even got the life coaching certification. That was 2006 when I lost them. I said, I need to help people with their grief. So those are the two things that I specialize in: giving you a strategy for your life and then helping you sort through your grief. And so that's when I started trying to focus. And that's only been in the last 2 years. So the first few years I had it, most people will tell you, most life coaches, believe it or not, maybe the first 4 or 5 years, they don't do anything with their certifications, or you're so lost as to what to do. You just kind of scrambling out there, so to speak.
I'm sorry to hear for your loss. That seems very tragic, but it seems like you turned it into something. You spun it into a career. But does that get pretty heavy dealing with grief management?
It can. I had to literally, this was just about 90 days ago. I had to stop and breathe and take a break. It was overwhelming. It was a lot. I was doing a grief talk show. I was doing grief every day on Instagram. I was doing grief every day on TikTok. And I didn't realize it was just starting to hit me hard. And I was not getting out of bed. And I was like, what is going on? Because in my head, I'm okay. I'm not having any issues about my grief. And I truly am not. But I didn't realize it was so much conversation in my life about it. And I hadn't taken a break. And so I finally said, hey, everybody, I'll see y'all in a minute. And I came back probably about 30, 40 days later. And I was a little better, but I realized it wasn't long enough. So now I did some changes. The talk show will only be the first half of the year because I was doing it the entire year. That's a lot of talk about dying. And so I cut that down. So the last session of the talk show will actually be the end of this month, and it won't start again until January. And then I cut off TikTok as far as being another grief space. And now I just use Facebook and Instagram to talk about that. And then I'm bringing back my life strategist coaching because I said, you know, it's great to help people out, but I still need to help people with regular life coaching stuff. So that kind of helped me I had to put up boundaries for myself, so to speak.
And being a life coach, do you find it helps you too personally? Like you're able to take your own advice? Because I know a lot of people, they're able to dish it, but they can't take it.
You know, I think a lot of people misunderstand what it is. And they get mad at me because you go online and you see people say, do you need a certification to become a life coach? And you'll see somebody or some woman or some man telling you, no, just go give people advice. And I'm going to be honest with people, if people think I'm overly educated or whatever. The certification, in my opinion, helps you to understand the types of things that you're dealing with if you've never understood the mind. And so you should get certified. You're dealing with people's lives just as much as a counselor is, a coach is. And so for me, that certification makes me go take additional classes, you know, to keep it. That certification makes me keep abreast of new ways of handling someone, because coaching is not counseling. Coaching is basically saying, I am your coach. I got on this, you know, rah-rah jacket, and we're going to move through what you need to move through right the hell now. Excuse me. And so that's what a coach is for. You're literally coaching somebody to the next level of their life. Counseling is digging into some things that you probably haven't dealt with. So that's a different beast. So that's why they say only 1% of coaches are truly successful, because those are the coaches that really make sure that they're being safe with their clients. So you do have a lot of people out here just giving advice off the cuff. And that's not what I do. I'm not giving you advice off the cuff. And that's dangerous to me.
Gotta get that certification.
Yes.
And look for certified people. Just don't take advice from anybody.
No, I think people think that's silly or a waste of time. I don't care where you get the certification, but a certification says you took the time to learn about what you're trying to do.
And also, for the magazine, you have the June 2022 issue out now. What can we expect the next issue to have, and when will that be out?
The next issue will be out September the 15th. You know, I don't really know yet. We've got just a few people that have signed up. We've got a young lady that has a ministry in the UK and she ministers there for people in Africa. So she's got that, and she's got a Live to Thrive coaching practice. So she teaches you how to thrive in your life. So we're featuring her about that. And we've got another young lady that is a life coach. Of course, I always feature at least one life coach, and she's telling you how to say no in your life. And so, and then we have what we call the Park for Floral Farms, and they are the people that are taking the time to make a park where Shingle Mountain used to be, which was a toxic waste dump in Dallas. And they're going to put a park there. And I featured in the June issue the lady who fought to get rid of the toxic waste dump, which is Marsha Jackson. She's in this month's coming up issue. That she fought to get the toxic waste dump cleaned out.
How long had it been there?
It had been there probably 20 years. They have black lung disease over there. They have migraine issues. They have a whole bunch of illness issues. And she took on City Hall by herself. And she fought them for the last, I won't say 20 years, I take that back. It had been there probably since, I think the official dumping day was 2015 or 16. So I've been there 5 or 6 years. And then she took them on and finally got results last year. It hasn't been recent. It was just last year. So she's in it, and we got a bunch of amazing ladies in it. We've got people that have lost weight, people that are telling their story, how they went from losing weight to they're now a model, and just all kind of amazing stuff. And I've got a young lady in there that has a nonprofit for people with MS, and she'll come out to your house and build your whole house so you can get around and do things if you have MS. She's doing a lot of stuff too. So it's a lot of, I think it's a lot of amazing chicks in there, and they're all kind of doing different things.
A lot of inspiring stories.
Yeah, I love them because they're all doing something great, and you got some of them that are out there making the money as well, and some of them are out there fighting for everybody, and some of them are finding themselves, like the girl that's become a model. She found herself 67 pounds later, and now she's become a model.
Oh, and can you tell people where they can find you and the magazine online?
They can find the magazine at www.prosperitymag.info. And they can find me across all the channels as Bigger Fish to Fry Coaching, because you got bigger fish to fry.
Well, Eleanor, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about your adulthood crush. And everyone, you can find all of Eleanor's information below. And until next time, keep crushing it.